From the world of AV programming and control with James King, I'm Steve Greenblatt, and this is Ask the Programmer. James, how are you today? We're back for another great episode and our returning guest.
I'm doing great. I'm looking forward to this one. How are you doing, Steve?
I'm uh, I'm hanging in there in terms of my voice, but doing well otherwise. Lots of good things. We're recording this in July of 2026, so we're coming off the energy of Infocom. If you listen to our past episode, our guest shared a bit about his experience, first time teaching, first time attending, and it's great stuff. But let me introduce him back into this one, and he's going to talk some more about his experiences. He's Jamison Vandenberg. He's an academic specialist level 3 at University of Wisconsin, Green Bay. Welcome back, Jamison.
Thank you for having me back again. And I'm always stoked to talk about these topics. I'm always here to nerd out about these topics. Way different energy you're gonna see.
Well, we really appreciate you being here. And, as we mentioned in our last episode, you raised your hand, we got to know each other, and look how far things have come. And I think we're gonna end up seeing you a lot on this episode, on this podcast. So thanks for being with us and sharing your experiences.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I mean, in all honesty, like about a year ago today, I just started posting on LinkedIn and getting involved in the community, and I'm already getting close to 1,000 followers that are constantly checking what I'm doing. So, like, in all honesty, if you're doing AV programming, AV in general, AV design, does not matter. Go post, go talk about it, go share your knowledge. It's okay to be wrong.
That's a great not only attitude but lesson, and that's what James and I have been encouraging our listeners and watchers and this community to be doing for some time. So your wonderful success story. Thanks for sharing that. Um, well, in our last episode, you mentioned about your student workers, and we were excited to hear about them in your second episode some time ago, which was episode 250. And you talked about how not only do you have student workers who help you and help your university, but you're also helping them to love AV. So talk a little bit about that. Tell us what's transpired since the last time we've talked about it, and how what types of responses you've gotten.
Yeah, so I mean, realistically, a lot of stuff has changed since then. So my department kind of combined with another department of IT, which is a massive benefit for me, which sounds a little strange, but now I have access to 12 different student workers that can dive into whatever they want to do. And they're already doing the computer work of like updating BIOS, deploying computers. In my eyes, it's a natural progression to understand what's going on in the classroom, not just sending updates to your computer or swapping cables out just for the computer. Let's teach them what a matrix switcher is. And not just above that, let's see who is wanting to get more involved. I have two student workers, and I did get their permission to actually talk about them this time, which was awesome. My first student worker, Daisy, she has been absolutely killing it towards the idea of design. And I think it stems from her graphic design, but she is already going out there and being like, okay, in this room, hey, Jameson, what do you think would fit in here? I'm like, well, you can either do a TV or a projector or direct view LED. Here's some, here's what they look like so that you understand the equipment. What do you think would work best, you as a student? And she was specking out some TVs and projector options because she looked at the price of the different options and she said, well, for the just a little bit less, we could go with this instead of like a direct view. We could go with a bigger projector that has better lumens. And we even went into the science of how lumens actually work. And then we eventually went from that to, okay, let's now start back a little bit. Now that I found what you're passionate about, let's see what you do when I'm like, okay, we need to go to this classroom and start pulling cable. And I was kind of taking notes of like, is she willing to do more than just design work and still have that same attitude? And which she did, which is amazing because we need to be flexible in higher ed. And that just, it allows me to give her more opportunities than just design work. And install and design and is go hand in hand a lot of the time. So it's extremely exciting for me for Daisy to be doing that. My other student, Sam, he is more, I want to learn the networking, but I don't know if I want to work in actual like infrastructure. I like doing some of this AV install stuff. What can we do? And I'm like, okay, let's take this Netgear switch that I have here, this Core 610 that I have here, and you are going to create whatever you want to do on this. This is your own personal little test bench. And then we will put you up to the random test of, hey, this VLAN doesn't work and figure out why. Or hey, this peripheral isn't communicating correctly. Let's figure out why. And it's going to be exciting because there's going to be a lot of random tests, and he is doing right now Netgear level 1 and QSys level 0, and then he is now just starting level 1 for QSys. So he's growing into it, and I'm hoping to get him into other manufacturers than just those two. But I cannot wait for this Monday because this Monday, and it's going to sound really boring to a lot of people, is ladder safety training. Yeah. I cannot wait for ladder safety training because I do it so differently. What we do for ladder safety training, I demonstrate on a ladder what to do, what not to do, and then I give them a task of, okay, wire these speakers, and you have to be on the ladder while you're doing it, or set up this projector, and you have to be running cable for it. Get comfortable working on a ladder and understanding that you can be safe on a ladder and still work. You don't have to climb to the very top and reach up in there and you're holding on to like different things. You shouldn't be doing that. Just go get a bigger ladder at the end of the day. So I'm excited for ladder safety training because now I get to do it with all 12 of the students and people get to go have fun, you know. So those are the things that I'm just excited for this summer alone.
Do you give them a certificate? Do they get certified? What's the story?
So with ladder safety, we're trying to figure out a way that we can do like a GB certificate without like legal loopholes and stuff like that. So my goal is to at least get them comfortable working on a ladder because no matter what you do in life, you're going to be doing work on a ladder at some point. So the end goal isn't just getting them like a certificate for that kind of stuff. It's to get them comfortable working
Yeah,
on, in comfortable environments. And I always tell them the biggest thing that I really tell a lot of my students is at the end of the day, the biggest thing that you're going to learn is how to think differently when you're doing this stuff. Even in the programming world, you're going to learn how to think differently. Your critical thinking skills are going to grow. So let's let that expand. And let's figure out what you want to do. If it's programming, if it's engineering, if it's networking, like it is an endless area. But yes, for the QSys, the networking certs, we're looking at doing some certs with Lightware for their online training for the students to understand like the difference of HDMI, USB, DVI, and DisplayPort so that they can take those certifications with them. But I'm hopeful, at least with Sam, because he, I believe, is going to be a sophomore, so I'm going to have him for a while. Daisy, she's graduating this summer, and I already have companies asking me to hire her, which I'm always stoked for. I mean, seeing my students go from, hey, I'm kind of interested, and then all of a sudden jump to the, I want to do this. How do I make it there? And they're asking me questions. And if I don't have them, I mean, I reach out to like James, for example, of like, what can I do differently in this sense? And it's a killer thing. I love it. In all honesty, the student training, it's adapted to a different realm now, but I love it so much more now having 12 students that can be like, hey, I like this computer stuff. What's this AV stuff? And now they're cross-trained. And now they're more efficient in different areas.
that's a fantastic opportunity and experience. And I would encourage them to share about it so that others can know what you're doing, the benefit, and also seek those opportunities. Um, James, this is something to me that I've seen as a potential feeder into our industry. And, I know that student workers are different in different campuses and organizations. And in the corporate level, might be looked at as internships and so forth. But what Jameson's teaching is really foundational knowledge. Well, where do you see these applying in general? Is that something that other universities can be adopting?
Oh yeah, and I think every school really has their own, spin on it. Um, what Jameson is doing is excellent. One, I want to give him like, Daisy, that's awesome. We need more young folks in the industry, but we also need more diverse female. All like we need them all in there. So that's awesome that you have a strong female on your team that really is interested in this stuff. So that's great. Um, it's we work in higher education. The goal of higher education is to educate the students. Plain and simple. They're coming here to get an education in whatever it is. When they become a student worker, that is still our job as leaders for them, is to help them get their education. So I am not using my student workers, and it sounds like Jameson, we're not using them for grunt work. Sometimes it seems like, yeah, okay, all you're doing is pulling cables or hey, you're filling out spreadsheet and stuff. But we are preparing them for the real world. And I will tell you, higher education is not the real world. You can come at me all day if you want. We live our own bubble. Some good things about higher ed because of that, and some bad things because of higher ed. But per our role really even as worker here is to make sure the student workers are getting educated. It could be to help them in their field, it could just be life skills. I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from my student workers. Because what I do is I hold a one-on-one meeting with my student workers every other week. So it's twice a month. We sit down and have a one-on-one meeting, just like I would a full-time employee. It's ran just like a full-time employee one-on-one. And we talk about career goals, coaching, all that stuff. And I know last episode I mentioned about the student worker or ex-student worker of mine who I took around an Infocom. One thing he shared with me was he mentioned how valuable he found the one-on-ones. He also mentioned that one of the other student workers during his tenure here, when they were working together, they both are gone now. They were hanging out the other day, and he was telling him that he's actually becoming a firefighter. I was like, oh, that's great. And it's actually because of my one-on-one meeting with
Hmm.
him. Because in a one-on-one meeting, I remember asking him, I'm like, tell me about your career. And he's going, oh, I'm studying to be a cybersecurity, blah, blah, blah. And then he lit up when he's talking about, I really love firefighting, fire forest fires and stuff. And he's like, that's a side gig. So I asked him the simple question, go, why is that your side gig? And he totally changed and now is going to be a firefighter for the Vegas area, just because he found his passion. No, it wasn't Navy. No, it wasn't technology. But as a educator of part in higher ed, I helped him with his education.
These are phenomenal points because what you're doing is you're training people for the workforce. And I kind of wish that I had some of that. When I was in school, I felt like I got trained to go find a job, but not necessarily trained to know what it was going to be like once I did. And you guys are offering that, which is phenomenal. So now we've looked at, we've widened the lens a little bit. We've looked at student workers who are there to get, make money, to student workers who are there to learn and contribute and maybe build some skills. Then student workers who are there to actually learn, who to have careers. Really, really interesting stuff. Um,
And that,
Yeah.
oh,
go ahead.
go ahead, Jameson.
So I was gonna mention one thing that I've started doing some of the one-on-ones like you're doing, James. But when I hire student workers, I do treat them more like full-time staff than actual student workers. And one of the things that actually did help out is there is a policy that I have of you have three major strikes. That has kind of shaped a lot of my student workers of understanding, okay, Jameson is not just my friend and my boss, but he's going to hold me up to the same kind of extent
Mhm.
that, you know, full companies will hold you up to. Like, you can't mess up every single time. There's going to be retraining moments, and we all learn together with them. But having that strike policy can help sometimes when it's just not what they want to do. And they might as well learn that here in college than learn it in the workforce. And I'm a strong believer in that.
Yes, and that's one thing I was saying is good. Like I started as a student worker. I when I was in college, I was a student worker, and I, ended up working for the university that I graduated from. Even when I was a student worker, worked full time, and I still remember this saying was I was at a night in task. We came up with there was a problem. We came up with a solution as a student workers. We were tasked to come up with a solution for it. It was, I'll tell you, it was actually a way to lock down the settings in Firefox. Like you could, at that time, you could do Google Chrome and IE through GPOs, but you couldn't do Firefox. I don't know about nowadays, but back then you couldn't. So another student worker and I, we came up with a way. He found ways to modify the settings in Firefox and found a way to lock those settings. I found a way to automate that during installation. So it would install our configuration and lock it with our password and all that stuff. So it was a whole script program and all that stuff. School was using it. I'm working full time now, and I graduated. I'm working, and it was a couple of years later. I'm now actually working on the AV stuff now, so less on the computer side. And I had a student worker come up to me, and he's like, "Hey, there's a workaround to your Firefox lockdown program." I'm like, "Oh, there is." He's like, "Yeah, a classmate and I found out if you did X, Y, and Z, you could get around the lockdown." I'm like, "Okay, go find a solution." And his eyes lit up like a kid in a candy store. He's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "You found a problem. Go find a solution for it." I go, "I wrote that when I was a student worker. Go solve that problem." And it's given them the space to, tinker, explore, and learn.
What I'm hearing too that you guys both should be commended for is you've now advanced your leadership and been able to grow because you've had these experiences and you both are exhibiting these wonderful leadership qualities, not only as being a manager but also helping people to grow and challenging them and promoting opportunities. So kudos to both of you guys. Um, how do you feel, Jameson? Do you feel that there's more people that like? Do you feel like this is going to start a trend, and you're going to find more people that are going to follow in the footsteps of the two that you mentioned?
I hope so. I hope this starts a trend, not just for my university, but for surrounding universities in my area. I was tooling around with the idea that maybe one of these days I can work with a manufacturer and not only have the other colleges around me join me for, this manufacturer training, but having their students and my students in the same area and then start traveling around and just helping out other colleges here and there and looking at doing, a nonprofit maybe one of these days if the chance ever arise to help out more than just my college because I know that there are areas that, in my area at least, I'm the only one doing all the programming, the design, the install, and everything and boots on the ground. there might be other colleges out there that one person is also doing all this classroom support and they don't have time to train. So why not devote some of the time that I have of training my students, take notes of what I'm doing, present it, and also bring it to these other colleges that are around me that might be smaller, that might not have as many opportunities for training, and help them out. That's just reaching a bigger goal of just not helping out my students, but helping out the younger generation. And it's something that I feel like a lot of us should be looking at doing, is sharing our notes, sharing online, doing stuff like that of how can we help more people get into our industry or at least help them navigate the industry? Because it shouldn't be a good old boys club anymore in a sense. And I hate saying that out loud, but we can't have that mentality anymore. We just can't. We got to innovate and we got to have the mentality of innovation.
Without a
Yes,
doubt.
yes, 100%. And also we gotta think about it this way is the old thinking of job security. If I teach Jameson what I do, then he's gonna take my job. And I'm now out of a job. That old thinking needs to go away. And we want to raise everybody up because we all get better. And I just heard this recently, and it kind of takes a new light to that with me on this is you need to put yourself out of a job. Don't think about losing your job. You need to put yourself out of a job. And what I mean by that was a good friend of mine. He was talking about this. He was saying that when he was starting out, he went to his boss for the company he worked for, and he's like, "Hey, I'm looking to grow professional and all that stuff." And his boss told him, "Great, I love it, but now I need someone to fill your role. Your job is to put yourself out of a job. So if you want to advance, you can't leave a vacuum." So, and that's what I think the old ways, and I've seen that. I've seen people who have closed the door behind them and created a vacuum. And, people don't like working for those and they move on. And, you're going to finally hit your max. But if you put yourself out of a job, there's no vacuum. There's no end to what you can do.
Yeah, super. I was thinking about that exact same thing. And you have to train your replacement. And that's a very common thing. And it's hard for somebody to fathom. And but also one of the things that I would want to make people think about is we often are focused on the technical roles in the industry, but there's a lot of other roles in the industry that need to know the industry, need to know the basics, but don't necessarily have an entry point. So, I'm talking about salespeople, I'm talking about project managers, I'm talking about, operations people, marketers. There really isn't a place to get them started. You can tell them to pursue a CTS, but that could be too large of a step. They need those stepping stones to be able to get there. And if there's even just a formula or a roadmap to say these are the trainings to take that are going to fill in some of the gaps, and try to veer in the direction that you're either interested in or your organization is focused on, that would be a huge asset. And I've been looking for that for quite some time.
I
Uh,
do want to formalize a lot of my student training to eventually get to that point. So when I formalize it, I will gladly share that with all of them. Like
yeah.
anyone can reach out. If you want that type of stuff, I am a-okay with sharing at least the keynotes that I have right now of what I'm doing. But I do want to formalize it to get there.
Certainly a good thing for us to discuss on the next episode that we have you. But also, I would encourage you to share even the idea that you just described of, hey, I want to be able to give people a way to learn this industry and bring the industry to them. That those are great things to be able to put out on social media. I bet you'll get a lot of interest, a lot of interest. Well, I think that's a good way for us to wrap this episode up. You know, Jameson, I can't say enough about how great it is to meet you and to get you to be on the show and and I'm so proud of, all that's transpired since then. And, we're going to have you back without a doubt. And I encourage everybody listening to take down Jameson's information and follow him because you're going to be very appreciative of the things that he shares. So why don't you let people know how to do that and how to continue this conversation with you?
Yeah, so you can reach me over at LinkedIn. That's where I post a lot of stuff. So Jamison Vandenberg at LinkedIn. Look for the photo with me and my dogs, cute little AI photo that I made one day. Or you can reach me via email, vandenbj at uwgb.edu. I'm always here to talk, always here to help. And if I don't have the answer to it, we'll figure it out together.
That's a great motto. So please take him up on that and let us know that you did too. So that information will be in the show notes in case you need it. James, any final takeaways and how can people reach you and continue the conversation?
Again, great episode. Connect with Jameson. Wealth of knowledge out there. Google me. You'll find me if you want to get a hold of me. I'm out there. Ask the programming community on LinkedIn.
My final thought on this one is that, you're listening and watching three people who really care and who really want to help and really want to give back and are passionate about what we do. So, take us up on these opportunities to learn more and even just ask questions and there really are no strings attached. For me, you could reach me at Steve Greenblatt on social platforms. LinkedIn is the best place. My company, Control Concepts, is a supporter of this podcast, and we build some of the components that programmers use to either integrate their third-party products or add functionality to their programs. And you can find out more about that at controlconcepts.net or soon to come ccisupported.net. This podcast, if you are watching it on YouTube, you could also listen on your favorite podcast player. And if you're listening, you could check us out on YouTube. Both great places to leave a rating or review, comment, and we'd be honored if you'd share your favorite episode. You could join us on LinkedIn to meet some of the listeners and audience members. We have an Ask the Programmer group there, so please check that out. And we'll be posting more about our episodes or even opportunities to join our show. So we appreciate you listening and thank you for watching. This has been Ask the Programmer.